Chapter 11. The Luxembourg Hotel. The week had gone by in a flash. On Saturday, Aunt Michelle and Prospero went to a matinee at the movies. They wanted Hoggie to come with them, but Hoggie did not feel up to it. She spent all of the previous night tossing and turning, thinking about the teachers' council that had gathered on Friday. She also spent the entire Saturday morning waiting for the phone to ring, and Mrs. Hamilton's nasal voice to break to her the news. But no one from school called that day. After lunch, Hoggie took Higgledy and Piggledy to the park. The snow had melted by then, and the city was cold and gloomy once again. The park was a soggy mess, and there was not a single person in it. Hoggie sat on the edge of a park bench and watched Higgledy and Piggledy bark and run around a tree. There was a squirrel hanging by its claws on the side of the tree, easy to see, but too high to reach, and it was driving the dogs crazy. Suddenly, the pugs stopped and perked up their ears. Then, in a flash, they darted off towards the eastern entrance to the park, mud squirting from under their toes.
"Pig! Hickey! Come back!"
Hoggie cried, but the dogs would not listen. Alarmed, Hoggie jumped off her bench and ran after them. A minute later, she too reached the eastern edge of the park, and saw, standing among the trees, a solitary figure of a boy. Higgledy and Piggledy were jumping around the boy and up his chest, leaving muddy paw-prints on the front of his coat.
"Down!"
Hoggie cried.
"Bad dogs!"
She rushed to pull the pugs away from the boy, and when she was just meters away from him, she realized that it was Scooter. Just then, Scooter caught the jumping Higgledy in his arms. The dog began to lick the boy's face happily, and instead of turning away from the beast, Scooter just smiled. Then, still smiling, he said, "Hello, Hoggie. How have you been?" Hoggie recalled the last time she saw Scooter, and all the hateful things she said to him. She felt suddenly so ashamed, she could not bring herself to reply. "You look good," Scooter said after a few seconds of silence, interrupted only by Piggledy's whining. He too wanted to climb up into Scooter's arms and give the boy a kiss. "A little pale, maybe?" Hoggie still would not reply. "I've been all right," Scooter carried on. "Caught a bit of a cold the other day, but got over it pretty fast." By then, Hoggie had finally gathered enough courage to speak.
"Hot water with raspberry jam is really good for a cold."
"It is," Scooter confirmed cheerfully. He was visibly glad that Hoggie was speaking to him again. "That's what Angela gave me, and the next morning I was good as new."
"How is school?"
"Nothing new, except—" Scooter put Higgledy back on the ground. "The teachers had a council yesterday."
"They did?"
Hoggie felt her heart skip a beat, and then started beating a little faster than usually. Scooter nodded.
"I bet Hamilton said all sorts of things about me,"
Hoggie said glumly.
"Called me unmotivated and disruptive and irresponsible."
Scooter let out a little snort. "She did, actually. Those exact things."
"How do you know?"
"I was there." For a few moments, Hoggie was speechless.
"But how?"
"I asked the headmaster if I could speak to the council, and said that it was very, very important, and he let me."
"What did you talk to them about?"
"About you, of course." Hoggie fell silent once again.
"What did you say to them?"
"I asked them not to expel you from school. I said that it is true that you have bad grades, but then I explained to them that you had fallen behind because you had changed schools so many times. I also explained to them that you skip morning classes because you and Aunt Michelle are poor and you have to work. I said that just because you do not do well at school, it does not mean that you are unmotivated or irresponsible. You are very well read, and you work really hard when you do something you truly like. And you have tons of responsibilities, for yourself, your aunt, the dogs, even me. Not many people your age have so many responsibilities. I told him that you may not be the best student, but you are a good person and the best friend anybody could ever have."
"You said all that about me?"
Hoggy was so touched, she felt tears swelling up in her eyes. "Cross my heart."
"And they?"
"They were quite surprised, actually. Very moved, too. Miss Chakrabarty even cried." Hoggy tried to imagine the usually unflappable teacher's counsel, dumbfounded by Scooter's speech. She wished she could have seen the deputy headmistress's face. "And then," Scooter continued, "I said that you could be as good as any student in the Regent's Park. In fact, you could be better than most students, because you are actually very smart. If only you had a mentor, someone in your life who would make sure that you went to all the classes, and did your homework every day, and maybe tutor you a little in maths. Then Mrs. Hamilton said—"
"And who do you suggest act as such a mentor? You don't expect us to do it, do you?"
Scooter got Mrs. Hamilton's voice to a T.
"We have hundreds of students in this school. We can't personally attend to every one of them." "And then what happened?"
"And then I said that I'd do it."
"Do what?"
"Be your mentor." Not for the first time during their conversation, Hoggy became momentarily speechless.
"You? My mentor?"
"Why not?" Scooter seemed slightly hurt by the fact that no one thought he could do it. "All I have to do is to remind you what is due when, check your homework, and explain to you maths and other subjects with which you have a problem. Me," the boy added proudly, "I can do maths in my sleep. I could also take the time after school to go with you over the morning classes you have missed." Scooter pulled his notebook out of his pocket, and, out of the notebook, a neatly folded sheet of paper. "Here," he said, unfolding the sheet. "I've made this schedule. It shows all the reports, papers, and other assignments you either have not turned in or failed. We are going to redo all of them, and turn them in on these dates. This will help you to catch up on your studies."
"Wow!"
Hoggy said, studying the schedule.
"I've missed a lot of assignments, haven't I? And what did the teachers say?"
"They liked my idea very much. Miss Chakrabarty and Miss Pitkin even said that if you turned everything in on schedule, they would give you partial credit for your work. Mrs. Hamilton was the only one sceptical. And so I told her that she was unfair to you, that she was not giving you a chance." Hoggy gasped. No student at the Regent's Park ever dared to stand up to the fearsome deputy headmistress.
"What did she say?"
"Well, she kind of blushed at first, and would not say anything for a while. But then she gave me this long look, and then, and it was so strange, freaky even, she smiled, and said that perhaps I was right, that perhaps she was unfair."
"So, what did they decide?"
"They decided that they would give you a second chance. We have until the end of the school year to improve your grades. If we succeed, you can stay at the Regent's Park. They will even let you continue missing morning classes occasionally, if you have to." For a few moments, Hoggy considered this piece of news. She never thought things would work out this way. She never thought any of her teachers could be so understanding and supportive. But what she expected even less was that Scooter, the shy little Scooter who could not run or climb a rope to save his life, and who was intimidated by every boy and girl an inch taller than he, could walk into a room full of teachers and tell them that they were wrong. She also did not expect that he, a model student, who would probably end up becoming a barrister like his father, would want to take the trouble teaching her maths.
"You'll do this for me?"
Hoggy asked.
"You'll teach me fractions and check my homework every day?"
"Of course I will," Scooter assured her. "I should have done it a long time ago. I am your friend, and that is what friends do." Hoggy stared at Scooter for a few seconds. Then she got this sudden uncontrollable urge to grab him and kiss him on a cheek. So she did.
"Oh, Scooter,"
she said, all out of breath from the overwhelming feeling of joy and gratitude she was feeling.
"You are wonderful. I'm so glad that you are my friend. How could I ever break up with you? How could I be so stupid? I'm so sorry I said all those things. I didn't mean any of them."
Scooter went all pink in the face, and the dogs, totally clueless yet excited about what was happening, began to jump and bark again. "I know you didn't," the boy replied. "You were upset and angry. You should hear some of the crazy things I say when I'm angry." It occurred to Hoggie that she had never seen Scooter angry. Not with her, at any rate. The thought made her smile. The next 3 weeks were the busiest in Hoggie's life. She had no idea how much she had missed at school, until she started to catch up. Every day, after classes, she would hide in the kitchen, or in a reading room on the top floor of the city library, and spend the next 6 hours writing essays and reports, solving maths problems, and working on her science projects. She'd bury herself in her textbooks until it became dark outside, and do 2 more hours of studies after dinner. In the beginning, Hoggie found it all very hard, especially maths. If she were alone, she would have given up after a couple of days. But, luckily for Hoggie, Scooter was by her side, helping and encouraging her. Whenever she got stuck with her assignment, he would explain it to her. And every time she became bored and felt like skiving, Scooter was there to make sure she kept at it. He'd invent maths games to spice things up, or make them switch to another subject to keep his friend interested. Slowly, Hoggie began to get better at her studies, and even enjoy them. It also helped that the winter was finally nearing its end. The days were noticeably longer now, and the weather was warmer and drier. Now and again they would have a day so beautiful and peaceful that Scooter would let them take a longer lunch break. They would sit outside and enjoy the sight of trees blooming, and pigeons, spooked by a hawk, soaring over the city's roofs. It was during one of those long lunch breaks that Hoggie told Scooter about her last visit to Icarus's, and the story of the Society of Saint Jerome. Scooter considered this new piece of information for a few moments. "Do you think," he said in the end, "that Alexander Libri had something to do with the Society of Saint Jerome?"
"He had to. His ex libris is exactly like the Society's coat of arms. The slightly open door, with the light pouring through it, and the Latin motto. It would be too much of a coincidence." Scooter considered this for a few more moments. "But in this case," he said at last, "Libri's family must be one of the guardians of the Alexandrian Library, and his collection, or at least some of it, actually comes from the Royal Library." "It is logical,"
Hoggie agreed.
"The Libris did come to England from Italy, and they did bring an awful lot of very rare and valuable books with them. Also, remember Catherine telling us that all Libris, many generations of them, have been librarians. I'm positive that Alexander's ancestors were from the Alexandrian Brotherhood. Maybe, after the death of the Vincenzas, they decided that they and their books would be safer in England."
Scooter rubbed his chin. "Except I did not see anything in Catherine's library old enough to be from the original collection. I mean, those books would have to be at least 2,000 years old."
"Yes, but do you also remember that after Alexander's death some of the books went missing? I bet they didn't go missing. I bet the architect hid them. And if we are right, and there is a secret room in the library, I bet that is exactly where he hid them."
For a while, Scooter pensively chewed his sandwich. "Do you think the people who broke into Catherine's house were the same people who had been burgling other guardians?" Hoggie shrugged.
"As Icarus said, there are plenty of book thieves around. Something is curious about this whole burgling business, though."
"What is it?"
"Every one of those collections had hundreds, maybe even thousands of priceless books, but the thieves did not take any of them. Why?"
"They were looking for a specific book?"
"Exactly."
Hoggie raised her index finger.
"And if that was what they were doing, then the break-in into Catherine's house is connected to all those other burglaries. Some person, or persons, was looking for a specific book from the Royal Library of Alexandria. They did not know which of the guardian families had the book, after the original collection was broken up, and so they went through all of their houses until they found what they wanted.
But they didn't find what they wanted, did they? Hoggie nodded her agreement.
Nothing was missing from the guardians' homes, including Catherine's, so no, they probably didn't.
Scooter took another long reflective pause. This book the thieves are after, do you think it is the same book we are looking for? The mirror? Hoggie wrinkled her forehead. She had in fact wondered about that. The mirror had to be a truly rare and valuable book. Otherwise, why was Dr. Barnaby willing to pay £2,000 to those who found it? He also warned them that other people were looking for the book. Thus it was entirely possible that the mirror was the very book the thieves were after. "You know," Scooter said, "I'd pay my entire share of the finder's fee just to find out what's so special about this book, and why everybody wants it."
"I suspect we'll never know,"
Hoggie sighed.
"The library's construction plans were our best chance. Without them, we'll never find the secret room. Look at the size of this thing."
She motioned towards the city library. Scooter studied the library's enormous shape. Sitting atop a hill, it resembled a castle. If Alexander Libri indeed hid the mirror in the building, he could not have found a safer place in the entire city. With all the classes and extra studying they had to do these days, and the fact that their search for the mirror had reached a dead end, Hoggie and Scooter as much as gave up hope of ever finding the book.
"I can't think of anything else we could do,"
Hoggie stated dispiritedly, one morning as she and Scooter were on their way to the science lab.
"Unless Alexander Libri told someone about it. There just is no way for anyone to find that secret room."
Scooter agreed with his friend. "We could still ask Catherine if her grandfather corresponded with anyone, and if she happens to have those letters. But I doubt we'll find anything useful there either. I mean, if he were going to share a secret this big with somebody, he would have shared it with his children or grandchildren first, wouldn't he? And Libri obviously didn't tell his family about the secret room. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wondering what happened to the missing part of his book collection."
"Unless,"
it occurred to Hoggie,
"he did tell them, and they just pretend not to know what has happened to all those books."
Scooter considered this for a second. "No, Catherine would not lie to us. She isn't the type."
"Everybody lies,"
Hoggie declared.
"She could have lied to protect her grandfather, or her parents, or the society, or simply because she thought we were too young to get involved in this business. You are right about one thing, though. We probably won't find anything in Libri's letters, assuming she has any." She let out a long sigh. "I never thought I'd say this, but I think it's over, Scooter." Scooter nodded. "It sure looks this way." He also sighed. "Oh, well, it was fun while it lasted. We should probably let Dr. Barnaby know that we can't find the book. You have his card, don't you?" Hoggie stopped in the middle of the hall and rummaged through her school bag. "Oh, bother,"
she realized after a few moments of fruitless search.
"I think I left it in Till Uhlenspiegel. I've been using it as a bookmark."
"Never mind," Scooter replied. "We can just go to his hotel and tell him in person. I know where the Luxembourg is. It's not far from the library. Let's go see him this afternoon, after your tutoring session." The Luxembourg Hotel was a beautiful old building. Its facade boasted pretty little balconies, striped awnings, and even a liveried doorman, who bowed every time a guest arrived at the front door in an expensive car. Hoggie felt very uncomfortable entering the hotel's brightly illuminated lobby, and walking across the spotless floor in her duct-taped boots. Scooter was more confident. He marched straight to the counter, behind which an impeccably dressed man, with a pointy nose and a pencil-thin moustache, was standing. "A good evening," the man said presently. "Welcome to the Luxembourg. My name is Luigi. How can I help you?"
"We are friends of Dr. Barnaby," Scooter said. "He is staying at your hotel."
"Oh, yes," Luigi nodded. "He is in room 406. The children took the elevator to the hotel's top floor. Here, at the end of a brightly lit hall, whose walls were decorated with mirrors and real paintings, and whose floor was laid with a thick, soft carpet, they found Dr. Barnaby's room. Scooter knocked on the door. Nobody answered, but Hoggie could have sworn that she heard some movement within. Scooter waited a moment, and then knocked again. Again there was no reply. Hoggie pressed her ear against the door. This time she did not hear anything. Still, she had a feeling that someone was inside. Only for some reason they did not want to answer.
"Dr. Barnaby?"
Hoggie called out.
"Dr. Barnaby! It's Hoggie and Scooter. We need to talk to you about the mirror."
Once again there was a very faint movement inside, and then a voice, also very faint, replied, "1 moment, please." Hoggie looked at Scooter with a satisfied and proud expression of one who gets results, while Scooter wondered why the scholar had not answered his call the first time. Another moment passed before the voice announced, "Please come in. The door is unlocked." The children pushed the door open and entered. It was still daytime, but the room was dark. The heavy velveteen drapes were drawn, and the lights, with the exception of a small lamp on a bedside table, were out. In the dark, Hoggie could just make out the outlines of Dr. Barnaby seated in the bed, the bedcovers pulled up to his chin, a large handkerchief covering most of his face. Presently the archaeographer blew his nose into the handkerchief.
"Please excuse me,"
the scholar said in a soft and extremely congested voice.
"I appear to be suffering from flu. A particularly nasty one, too."
"Everyone catches flu this time of the year," Scooter hurried to comfort the man.
"Still, I'd rather not pass it on to you," Dr. Barnaby replied with a sniffle. "Why won't you sit over there, on the sofa? Oh, yes, that's far enough," he added with satisfaction, after the children had seated themselves. "I believe you have some news for me, some news about the mirror. Have you found it?"
"No, we haven't," Scooter replied. "In fact, we don't think we'll ever find it. We've looked everywhere. But this book, if it really is in the library, it is hidden too well. We're sorry we can't help you, Dr. Barnaby." The scholar's face was in the shadows, and Hoggie could not tell whether he was upset, disappointed, or angered by the news. His voice, however, showed none of these emotions. It was calm and benevolent, just as it was the very first time he spoke with them.
"No need to apologize. I am sure you did your absolute best. What did you do, by the way? Where exactly did you look for the book?"
And so Scooter and Hoggie told Dr. Barnaby of their quest, from the careful examination of every single volume on the library shelves, to their night trip to the stores, and to their investigation of the life of Alexander Libri.
"We are sure that there is a secret room somewhere in the library,"
Hoggie said in the end.
"If the mirror is in the library, it must be in that room."
Dr. Barnaby heard the children's story out very patiently, without once interrupting them, and after they finished, he was silent for almost a minute.
"This is remarkable," he said at last. "Have you done all this by yourselves, with no help whatsoever?"
"We have," Scooter confirmed. "Just the two of us."
"And the existence of the secret room Have you worked it out entirely on your own?" "It was all Hoggie's idea." "Well, all I can say is, bravo! You have done a marvellous job."
Hoggie felt herself blush.
"The problem is, we have no idea how to get to this room. That's why we feel like there isn't anything else we can do."
Dr. Barnaby nodded.
"I see why you feel this way. So, first of all, let me say this once again. You have done very well. I am really quite impressed with your work. Secondly, I wish to assure you that the mirror is indeed in the library. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. And thirdly, I believe you are giving up too soon. You can find the book. In fact, if there is anyone in the whole world who can find it, it is the two of you. Scooter, I really like your idea that Libri has left a clue somewhere, in a journal or in a letter to a friend. He must have. He simply could not have hidden some of the world's most interesting books without telling where, to at least one person."
Scooter pondered this for a few moments, and then turned to his friend. "What do you think, Hoggie? Shall we give it another try?"
"I suppose we could,"
Hoggie replied.
"I just don't see what else we could do."
"I think you should concentrate on Alexander Libri's life from now on. Talk to Catherine Libri again. See if she remembers anything else about her grandfather, his hobbies, his favourite books, places he frequented."
Scooter jotted down Dr. Barnaby's suggestions in his notebook.
"Dr. Barnaby,"
Hoggie asked just then,
"what do you know about the Order of Saint Jerome?"
The scholar did not answer her question right away, as he was suddenly overcome by a rather violent fit of cough.
"Oh, excuse me, Hoggie,"
he said in the end, dabbing the sweat off his face with his handkerchief.
"The Order of Saint Jerome, you say? I know a couple of things about it. What exactly do you wish to know about them?"
"Was it really founded by the keepers of the Royal Library of Alexandria?"
"It was, indeed."
"And is it true that some of the books in the Order's collection came from the Royal Library?"
"It is quite possible."
"And is the mirror one of those books?"
For a few seconds the archaeographer struggled with another fit of cough.
"Yes,"
he said at last, his voice hoarse and weak with cold.
"It is very likely, Hoggie."
Just then Scooter decided to ask something that had been tickling his curiosity for a very long time. "Dr. Barnaby, why are you looking for the mirror?"
"You can say that I have a professional interest," Dr. Barnaby replied. "The study of books is my job, as you may recall. This particular book is a very curious subject. It is a bit of a mystery in the world of archaeographers and book collectors. Very few people know about the mirror's existence, because it has only been mentioned once or twice in historical documents of any kind. Yet the book has had a profound effect on the history of men."
"We've also heard that someone has been burgling the houses of the descendants of the Alexandrian brotherhood,"
Hoggy intervened again.
"and you warned us that someone else might be looking for the mirror. So we've been wondering if that someone and the burglars are the same people."
Suddenly, Dr. Barnaby laughed. It was an odd sort of laughter, mixed with coughing and sneezing.
"Oh, dear,"
the scholar said, once again wiping his face with the handkerchief.
"I seem to have alarmed the two of you beyond all measure. The truth is, when I warned you that other people might be looking for the mirror, Hoggy, all I meant was other book collectors. I certainly did not have any international book thieves or secret societies in mind."
Hoggy did not say it out loud, but she was somewhat disappointed. Scooter, quite the contrary, was relieved. "So we have no reason to worry, then?"
"None whatsoever,"
Dr. Barnaby assured the boy. Just then the clock on the mantelpiece over the fireplace struck 7.
"Oh, my! Look at the time," Scooter noted, rising. "We really should go, and let you have your rest, Dr. Barnaby. Thank you for talking to us."
"Any time, Scooter,"
the archaeographer replied.
"Get better, Dr. Barnaby,"
Hoggy said, also rising.
"Can we get you anything before we go?"
"Not to worry. The hotel staff take good care of me. Run along, my young friends. And remember," Dr. Barnaby paused, "the clue to the location of the secret room is hidden somewhere in Alexander Libri's life. Find it, and you'll find the book."